Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat on the Serious Angler Network, powered by X2 Power. And guys, today we've got a great show lined up. Basically, continuing on the West Coast train here, just digging into, mostly because it's close to my heart and fishing out west. But basically, there's been obviously a lot of drama on the West Coast and in a podcast. And with our media brand, our goal is to kind of cover some of that stuff, not to necessarily have opinions and those kinds of things, but cover that, but also shed positivity on what is happening out west and those kinds of things. There's a lot of opportunity, and I just want to continue to see that grow. So my thought process here is to kind of go to some of these other major tournament organizations out west, get a gauge on how they're feeling angler wise. They've been out here doing this a long time, seeing where their head is at in where the West is in bass fishing, and talk a little bit about what they've got going on. So without further ado, bringing in friend of the show, Mr. Billy Egan of One Bass. How are you, man?
Good. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for having me on, Adam.
Absolutely, man. Doing well. I'm jealous of sometimes you live an awesome life there in California, dude. You're either playing beach volleyball or chasing tuna around. You got it going on.
I know I have a rough life. Everybody says they'd love to have my job, but we get no resumes ever. Not one person's ever asked for my job, but I love it. And yeah, I mean, working for Western Outdoor News around One Bass, we just posted a social media video of me doing some stuff for our Cabo Tuna Jackpot, which is the largest tuna tournament in the world, in November. And then I get messages from industry people saying, "Oh, rough life." And I'm like, well, somebody's got to do it. So yeah, no, when I was younger, I've been now doing this. This is my 14th, going into my 15th year since we just did Jamboree recently. It's already, no matter what year you're in, you're always working on the next one anyways. But
right.
A lot of good things going on. And, West Coast, if there isn't something to talk about, something's wrong.
That's true.
That's the truth. We're always on the gauge. Everybody wants to own the West, but we're actually out here doing it, and not just us, but other organizations. But it's not as bad as what everybody thinks. It's actually some really good stuff going on out here with One Bass, with some of the other organizations, and bass fishing in general. But we're excited to the U.S. Open's coming up in October, which is everything on the table right now for us, working on that. And then our remake of the Arizona Open in November, which a lot of guys are actually really excited about because that time of year is pretty good fishing in Havasu. So a lot of good stuff.
No doubt. And I think something to always think through, I guess, is basically just like there's just so much of and you and I kind of talked previous to getting onto this, but there's so much around what is happening on the West Coast right now. And I don't think it's a bad thing to have people talking about it. I don't think it's good to necessarily have it be in a negative light, but it's interesting. I wasn't at ICAST this year, but Bailey, who I'm partners with on Serious Angler was, and he's like, dude, so many guys are talking about everything that's happening out west and this and that. And it's crazy to me because I think sometimes we kind of get pulled into our own world because it is so far away from the central part of the rest of professional tournament fishing. And so it's kind of cool to hear some of that in some aspects, but then it's like, all right, we got to show some positive stuff here and talk about what is going on, because there's a lot of anglers who are looking to compete out here. And One Bass really leads the number when it comes to boats and that kind of thing in events. And so it's good to have someone like yourself on to bring up some of the positivity, what's coming up the rest of this fall. You got a busy fall because normally you've got one tournament in the fall. Is that right? Just the U.S. Open kind of closes things out, or is there
typically? Yeah, as far as One Bass is concerned, the U.S. Open is usually the last event of the year. So as far as on the bass side, since we also have other freshwater events, I actually have a tournament,
Striper, right? Like all kinds.
What's that?
Striper stuff too, right? Haven't you done?
We do Stripe Bass tournament in Lake Havasu in May. That's been going on for 41 years. I actually do a trout tournament, 500 to 600 person trout tournament the weekend before I leave for the U.S. Open at Big Bear Lake.
Wow.
And then I do the U.S. Open, and then a week after the U.S. Open, I leave for Cabo to run the Cabo Tuna Jackpot, and then the week after the Cabo Tuna Jackpot, we're doing the Wombass Arizona Open remake, and then we're going to be starting the Wombass season in February in 24. So, rest for the wicked.
Yeah.
But
no, well,
a lot of good things, and obviously, the elephant in the room right now is what's happened out here in the West with Wild West bass fishing. A lot of people want to talk about that. It's a hot topic. When anglers don't get paid at events, it's a big deal. I mean, worst I've ever done is not been able to pay people at a U.S. Open last year because the National Parks doesn't allow you to hand out checks, which because they're new crew of people, they're following the rules, even though we've handed them out for years at Lake Mead. So, and I wasn't quick-witted enough at the time to say, okay, let's meet in Laughlin in an hour and I'll get everybody their check. So we mailed them out in 2 days. So, but Wombass has been around for 41 years now. This will be our 41st anniversary of the U.S. Open. Harvey Naslin before me, Mike Kennedy before me, Bill Hutchinson as well before me, and now myself for the past 14 years. Integrity and being accountable and following through with what you say you're going to do and with your sponsorships is utmost, because what stands you apart from other organizations is how you deal with customer service and how you deal with your events. I was told very early on by Harvey Naslin, who gave me a day and a half of training before he handed over the U.S. Open to me.
Nice.
Yeah. To give them a show. Make sure that they have a great time, they get what they deserve, but more than anything, give them a show so that when they leave that, all they can think about is getting back to it the next year. And that's what we pride ourselves on doing, is running a really smooth ship, providing a platform for our anglers to fish, to earn some money, to get some exposure for themselves and their sponsors, and for us to do that for our sponsors as well. And, right now I've been here 14 years and this is the most sponsors we've ever had supporting Wombass, and just signed 2 new ones yesterday that are going to be open, and probably have about 4 or 5 more they're going to be signing on. So things are really looking up in the industry out here out West. And, as long as you do what you say you're going to do, support the anglers and make the right calls at the events, the best of your ability, then you're doing your job. Right. And the West, let's see, the West for many years, there's been lots of different tournament organizations. When I started, there was not MLF, but it was FLW back then. And there was Angler's Choice, and there was the Rookie Leagues, and there was other events. And for the most part, it was us in competition with Angler's Choice back then, which was another pro-am circuit run by Mark Mendez, I think it is. And they were our competition, and a couple of our actual tournament directors were working for them at the time. And I was brand new, and I knew that it was a way I kind of looked at how to compete and how to work with these other organizations, which has helped us through the last 14 years, was basically take a look at what they do, really research what they're doing. And if it's something that seems to be working, which was in my case back then, it seemed to be working. The anglers seemed to like it. So it just made sense. Well, let's mimic exactly what they do. Mimic their payouts, mimic the structure, mimic everything. And then the anglers will plainly see who's offering a better product.
I see.
And we were able to gain all that traction then, because the anglers then saw that we did what we said. We said what we were, we accomplished what we wanted. We gave away what we said we would, and the numbers started coming. And it's what I've based Wombass on since I've been here is, make sure the commitments are real, they're there, and what expectations you're putting out there are attainable for these guys and something they can achieve. So, and that they have a good time. Wild West seemed to have, hit a nerve with their apex level events that were a little different than everything else, and what they tried to do with the Western Bass Shootout, which was, good ideas, implementation,
Execution. Yeah.
execution, expectations. You have to have real expectations when you're trying to put an event of that magnitude together. And my hat's off to Basscat and to them for trying to do what they did and trying to bring these new things to the industry, which, I love it when somebody can show me something to improve how I do things.
Right. Competition, right? Like it breeds,
Competition,
it breeds
you
a
learn
better.
from somebody, you adapt into your own program. If it's something that you see that's going to benefit the event or the anglers or the fish or whatever it might be, and you're always augmenting. I mean, my anglers over the 14 years, every time they come to a tournament, they're like, okay, what are you going to change this time? Because there's always tweaks. You can always do tweaks to make things go just a little bit smoother, a little bit better, not only for the anglers, sponsors, but the actual resource, the fish as well. So a lot of different tweaks. But, to circle back on this, I had wished the sponsors had come to us when all those new ideas were being brainchild, because, maybe together we could have all pulled it off rather than one circuit trying to do it. But, again, Juan Bass had been running the Western Classic for years, which was what they were trying to bring out. All the top
100%.
anglers go to a non-paid entry tournament for prize money or prizes that were put up by the organization in long advance in the year prior to that season starting. So, and we've got some ideas that we're working on to maybe bring that Western Classic back and potentially maybe work with some of the organizations to allow some of those anglers in, which gets a little sticky because, when you're supporting a circuit all year long and you're allowing somebody else to come into it who didn't put in the same sweat equity, how do you justify that? But I'm not saying it's not possible, but
Right.
it's something to look at,
Well, I mean, one thought there would just be along, some of the similar guidelines or what the Western Bass Shootout did have, right? I think it was more anglers from Apex than it was from the other organizations, right? So maybe just have more guys.
Well, in my opinion, that was a little lopsided on how that was put together. Why 20 guys from Apex and only 10 from MLF and 10 from us? It didn't make sense. If I were the person that would have put it together, it would have been even across the field. You're going to invite the same amount of people from the same three entities, if you will. And, early on when they announced what they were doing, there's a lot of things that I suggested because I'd run some Western Classics before. There were people that couldn't make it, yet there was people that deserved to be there that, in our case, amateurs, because we have the amateur division, were shared weight. If an amateur qualified and they didn't have a boat because this guy didn't go, you had to bring somebody up in order to have a boat for that AAA to actually fish that classic. So, but there's a lot of good merit in some of the things that they tried to do. It just wasn't executed properly. It wasn't, this, I would never have somebody sign an NDA to fish my events because I don't want you to hide anything. I want you to call me if you have a problem with something. A lot of the drama is caused by social media because a lot of people want to get out there and be heard and use their platform to pound their chest, when what they should have done is called the tournament director, explain their beef or their problem, have the tournament director give them their, reply to whatever that issue is. And if you still aren't getting your information that you wanted, social media is not the place to put that stuff out there. It doesn't make anything look good. We talk to big sponsors all the time and they're like, do you read those forums? Why would we get involved with those guys? I'm like, well, it's a small percentage, unfortunately there's a small percentage of the guys that just like to cause drama. But there are also guys like to shed light on the truth as well. So it's a balance.
Yeah. And that's something that I hadn't really thought too much, as much of a factor as I have. I've always been, we create YouTube thumbnails, right? So we kind of have to have this, like, in today's YouTube space, it really is like such a, things draw people in. to click on things. And so that's like the only thing that Bailey and I and Andrew talk about. It's like you kind of almost feel bad making some of these thumbnails because it really does bring attention to something. But if people listen to our shows, we're very open, not ever bashing anything. And it's interesting because not just from yourself, but from just had Mark Lazang on talking about his new tour kind of coming this next year and talked about the Jamboree and that process. And, but like, you know, he said the same thing that from dealing with sponsors with his magazine, like those guys all reach out and say, hey, we saw so-and-so post on this, so-and-so post on this. Like there's so much behind the scenes at that sponsorship level that you really need to be careful as an angler if you're trying to be a sponsored angler and go to that next level, because there's, you know, people pay attention. It's social media. And if you're representing a brand, like you really need to be paying attention.
100%. And I learned long ago in this when Facebook became new, and it was something that I utilized heavily to promote fishing. Was, you know, it's got its good and its bads. It reaches a lot of people, but it also gives people the ability to feel important as well with their point of view. And, you know, it's you mentioned the Jamboree. I was at the Jamboree. We were able to secure our dates for next year as well. I saw Mark there. I saw the other organizations there. I hadn't been to a Jamboree in probably 7-8 years because we hadn't had to because of weekday tournaments. We're not competing with anybody for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday permits.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, I transitioned our opens years ago to weekday tournaments so that we wouldn't be in a fight with everybody for those weekend dates. So that one, there's less traffic on the lake during the tournaments, and two, you're not fighting for permits in California anyway.
You get to choose the time too, like that you're, you know, like that's what was interesting.
Not a conflict.
Right. So like there's a ton of conflict. Everyone wants to go to Clear Lake at X date, right? It's going to be fire. So
even for me, I mean, we've been looking at, you know, ways to improve things, and not a lot. There's been a number of anglers that said, hey, we really wish you could get back to the Friday, Saturday, Sunday formats, you know, for the working class guys. And there are people that mention that, but I went up with the intention of pulling permits for Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. And when the two permits I was pulling was conflict with 4 different organizations on those Saturdays. And I just said, I guess I'm going back to weekdays. No, you know, there's no issues now. So we tried to accommodate them, but, you know, with all the different organizations going out here in California, it makes it a little tough. And I feel bad for the guys who are trying to put 14 dates together, or 10 dates, 7 dates for their teams or their primes or whatever it is. And, you know, I'll touch real quick. I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to know how I feel about Mark and his new organization. You know, I say bring it. You know, anybody's welcome to do it if they feel that they can take it on and do it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of stuff that nobody ever thinks about. But I believe the West really doesn't have the number of pros to support more than 3, let alone 2 organizations out here. There's just not enough time. Let's just say you got you have MLF with 3 events. You have us with usually 4 events. That's 7 events, right? If they wanted to fish both. Do you know anybody who can get 7 weeks off in a year?
Well, and this is a conversation I've had with quite a few people over the last couple of years of just thinking about this on the West. And, you know, some of the different opinions that I've kind of had around that is the hard part is there seems to be just obviously just a less base number of anglers out West. But you look at so many guys out West are, like you're saying, they look at their year. And if you've got a normal job, you've got 3 to 4, if you're competitive and want to fish at a high level, 3 to 4 big tournaments, right? And then some weekend stuff, that kind of, that's great. But like, it is so hard to double that up out West, it seems, without being a pro, right? Not having another job outside of it. And it's just it's a kind of a weird deal, because in some of these other markets in Texas, in Alabama, like there's still those guys, a lot of them are still working, but the magnitude, there's so many trails.
There's so many more boats to draw from.
So many more boats. Just the percentage of anglers, the percentage of trails to anglers is so much less, right?
We have typically around 900 people who fish on the pro side each year.
Okay. Out of all trails.
In all of our events.
Okay. 900
different people will fish in 4 events. But you got a small percentage of them that fish every event. Because, you know, look at MLF, look at us. You put out a schedule. If you don't do well in the first event, you're like, oh, shoot. Well, I guess I'm going to have to really do good in those next 2 or those next 3, or I'm pretty much out of it. And then you go to the second event and you're, oh, man. So I'm not going to that third one unless it's somebody that just loves fishing and is going to go do it because they want to complete the season. But working guys are like, okay, I'm going to go fish these other ones because I know I'm not going to be going back east for MLF. So let me try this one. You know, the pool of anglers is limited out here.
Right.
We typically get from 120 to 150 anglers in our tournaments, which we're very fortunate to have. We get anglers from all over the West, you know, Arizona, Nevada, California, Oregon, Wyoming, Washington, you know, they travel. Not a big number of them like yourself, but we do get them to come to our events, which is awesome because we do stats at every event, where everybody comes from, what products they have, so that we can show our sponsors what type of people we're dealing with in our circuit here. So, you know, is there enough room for 3 organizations running the same style of events out west? I guess we showed that there was with Wild West, with MLF and us last year. Do we really need 3? No, but does it mean somebody can't do it? No. You know, the best to them. You know, good luck with the sponsorships. Good luck putting it all together. It's a lot of work. And if he's able to do it, kudos to him. And, you know, hopefully it's not just let's pick up the pieces and do the same thing. You know, it's let's revisit this, look at what worked, look at what didn't work, and what we're willing to do to try and put this together. Because the anglers are very fickle right now, you know, especially the ones that put their support into an organization that ultimately didn't work, you know. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. Obviously, you know, Jeremy, he's going to deal with this however he deals with it, you know, and hopefully, you know, these guys get their money back because they're our customers as well. You know, these guys are affected by this. And looking at the U.S. Open, which, by the way, is the premier Western event there is, hands down, no second.
Right.
It is and will be the biggest Western event ever to be held out here. And we will continue to run that until I'm out of here, but I'm sure long past that. But, you know, there's good events to be had out here. There's good organizations. You know, a lot of guys say, God, I wish there was 100% payout tournament trail. I wish there was one that gave out boats at every tournament. I wish there was good schedules. I kind of seem to know one that pays 104% out to 107% out with a boat at every tournament on the pro side with some of the best sponsors, biggest contingencies. And I'm a little biased, but I know there is one. There's one for sure.
Yeah.
So we don't have to recreate the wheel. You can just help us spin the wheel and get the dirt on it ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I think so much of stuff I'm learning anyway, as I kind of grow into an angler fishing at the highest level that I can, like contingencies make a big deal, all that stuff. And if you're an organization that's chasing those things down too, like you're just helping guys out.
Right.
Generally, if you're going to be putting a $1,500 to a $2,000 entry fee, and even over $1,000 entry fee into something, like you're going to be running pretty high end equipment. Like you're not going to, at least in my opinion, I've done it where I wasn't, right? I've done it where I'm running an old boat, and it's just, you really shouldn't be in my eyes, because you are risking every time you go out there in some capacity. So these contingency programs to encourage folks to buy newer things. Some of them, those things you're going to buy anyways as an angler. And so you're going to support someone who's going to support you, you should do it. So I think that's a huge thing. And I think, man, I think I totally agree. As far as in my head, always the premier event out West being the US Open. It's been around forever. It is the coolest thing that the West Coast has. And it's, the move to Lake Mohave, I think some folks are just, everyone loves mead, but that's not something you control over. And I think Mojave's an awesome fishery too.
Yeah, it is. It's become a great place to hold the US Open, to work with the LTC and visit Laughlin. The 8 hotel partners, they all give us our anglers discounts. They put out electrical chargers for all the guys. Catherine's Landing's 15 minutes from the hotels. We've got the Edge Pavilion, which we did our expo in last year, which we're doing again this year, October 15th, which the general public is more than welcome to come on out to the expo this year. Come on out, meet and greet Rick Clunn, Mike Iaconelli, Josh Bertrand, meet the sponsors. There's going to be over 40 sponsors there this year with booths. It's going to be a nice expo. There'll be some seminars going on at the same time. We're inducting 5 new Hall of Fame anglers this year. And come out to the first launch and spend a weekend. You can, as a guest or an observer, if you want to come out, you can use our discounted codes that we're offering on our website for the boaters and non-boaters. Just use the non-boater code and come on out, get a discount. There might be a concert in town. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are pulling out the red carpet for this year. I'm renting a huge stage. It's going to be a spectacle. So lots of great things. I will say right now, for anybody listening, the deposits are due by August 15th. So get your deposits in. For those of you that are thinking about fishing the US Open, get those in so we can start working on all the things that we need to take care of the event, some catering and different things that we're planning on doing for the event. But, it's going to be fun.
Heck yeah. Yeah. And then like you said, the reschedule with Havasu is after that in November, which Havasu, I've been on Havasu in November. And it seems to get late enough into the year there where it starts to turn over and get really good.
Yeah, it's going to be November 10th, 11th, and 12th out of Havasu Riviera Marina, which is the new marina there in Havasu. It's a beautiful place. Justin used to be the manager of the Bass Pro Shops in Vegas, who's now running that marina. They've got gas there, gas on the docks, big, wide launch ramps, slips available, and actuaries out front that protect the whole marina from the elements out there. So great facility. Havasu Chamber of Commerce is a sponsor. Anderson Toyota is a sponsor of that. We already have the prize boat. We had it in February when we had to cancel the last event. So we're looking forward to giving away that Bass Cat Sabre with the Mercury 150 there in November, the Jag with the 250 at the US Open, and a wad of cash. But, we're excited to complete this year and, work on next year as well. Know a lot of people have been trying to pull some information out of me with what we're working on for next year. And like I mentioned, we just got back from the Jamboree. So I can tell you this, we're going to be running 5 opens next year. We're going to have 2 in the north, 2 in the south. And at this time, I'll let you know that we're planning on still running the US Open at Mohave next year, based on all the information that I've been given by the water people at Colville and out there. Lake Mead has rised 20 feet since it was at its lowest. It's projected to rise another 20 feet. And with the people I was talking to, I said, great. So if it does raise another 20 feet, will we be at the same level we were 3 years ago when we ran our last US Open? And they said, no, we'll still be another 20 feet shy of that.
Wow.
So to try and plan a US Open without knowing
contingent of water.
Yeah. Like, if we have another big winter, we'll have water. I'm like, well, I can't plan on that. So at this point, we're looking at first weekend of February, which is actually the 31st of January, the 2nd and 3rd, or 1st and 2nd of February of 2024. We're either going to be at Orville or Shasta. Haven't decided which one yet.
Okay.
Then we're going to have to look at the calendar. We're skipping March because there's just too much going on. I've got to go to the Classic. We'll be at we'll be back at Clear Lake in April. So it'll be the 17th, 18th, and 19th of 2024. Make sure you mark in your calendar. I know you want to go.
No, I'm writing them down, man. We got
So Clear Lake in April, and then Havasu in May, which will be the 15th, 16th, 17th. New time of year for the Havasu Open. And then I think everybody will be a little excited about this one. Even though we can't put the U.S. Open or plan on putting the U.S. Open on in 2024 at Mead, we are going to do an Open at Mead in September.
Oh.
So we're going to bring the anglers what they want, put a 150 boat field out at Lake Mead in September, and then we'll round it all off in October at the U.S. Open at Mohave. So that's our tentative schedule right now for 2024. And we'll be releasing the actual dates here soon. I just need to lock up that Oroville or Shasta date based on some permit things I need to work with and the U.S. Forestry Service. And then we'll lock that up and put that out there so people can mark their calendars for next year. Can't say anything as far as sponsorships. We still have another year left of this remaining year left with Bass Cat Boats, which I couldn't say enough about Rick and his team and those Bass Cat Boats. It's been an awesome relationship, and we look forward to working with them. Mercury Marine, Michelle Kilborn, and Kevin Linehan. I mean, what can you say? Number one in the business, man. They're on the back of 95% of the boats at all of our events. So we love working with them. All of our great sponsors. You see Daiwa, Bridgeford, and a few of them behind me. We're looking forward to it. We've got great plans. Some really big stuff I'm working on, which is nothing new. I mean, I've been working on for 5 or 6 years. I'm just hoping that this coming year is when it all comes together.
Well, and that's, you and I talked a little bit off air just around this future plans, potentials, and all this and that. And obviously, and you haven't shared a lot of it with me this has been just a process for you over the last couple of years. It's not like this is just this year, but with the Wild West Bass Trail having issues shutting down, are you viewing this now? Hey, this is a good time to pounce out west I mean, let's face it, anglers, you're competing for anglers out west.
Yep.
Everywhere, but really out west. I mean, is this an opportunity that you're seeing of like, let's get aggressive here. Let's add in, like you're saying, adding another tournament next year. How do you feel like that's a good opportunity for you in 2024?
Well, a knee-jerk reaction is hell yeah, it is. But truth is we're planning what we're doing long before we ever knew there's any problems with Wild West.
Right.
Although, knowing the anglers and knowing information, I knew that there were some problems a while ago. If people want to say that they didn't know something was coming down, that they didn't have their eyes open. There were clues, and it's very unfortunate that it's happened to them and the anglers, most importantly. But what we're working on and what I continue to work on has nothing to do with Wild West not working or working. Not that I wasn't considering what they're doing, but when I look at planning WAN Bass, I look at WAN Bass because we're pretty much have been able to set ourselves apart from most of the rest. We're the only ones that do shared weight format.
Right.
We're the only ones that pay out over 100% on the pro side. We're the only ones that give a boat at every single event. And, as long as we keep building on those things that we provide that make us different than the rest, we'll continue to get the numbers because we say what we're going to do. We do what we're saying we're going to do, and we follow through. And, every boat model you run has a contingency program through WAN Bass. We don't say, oh, well, they're not our sponsor. You can't, they're all welcome. Phoenix, the rod companies, some of the guys listening, if you want to go on our website and go to or go to Facebook and look at some of our recent posts, there's 6 or 7 of our sponsors are offering direct discounts, and some of them expire on the 31st. We're trying to build our network of sponsors and partners to show that we can bring a larger footprint here in the West, and start with our backyard, eventually I was teasing on going to Washington at one point. That's not out of the realm. It's just not right now.
Yeah.
I think there someday could be another region up in that side of
I think so. I
the
think there's an
West,
angler base
and
up
then
there.
another region on this side over by Texas and a couple other things. And then we can have 3 regions out here that then can bring back a Western Classic type situation where you're pulling anglers from 3 different regions because basically with the 5 events that we're doing,
Mhm.
you're going to have 2 in the North, 2 in the South, and the U.S. Open. So
Right.
the ask is you fish your 2 in your region, you have to fish at least 1 out of your comfort zone to qualify for the carrot at the end of the year. Follow me?
So the carrot you're saying is the final tournament at the end of the year?
Well, the U.S. Open will always be the final tournament,
right.
given what happened this year with the reschedule. The U.S. Open is where we'll end the season, and so I'm still working on all the details. Like I say, I can't talk a lot about, but the carrot at the end of the 2004 season, based on 5 events, will be based on a guy. In order to be in that upper echelon for the chance to win this carrot that we're working on,
Okay.
you will have at least fished the 2 in your region and 1 outside of your region, including the U.S. Open, to attain it.
So you need 4 tournaments then.
Correct.
US
You'll
Open.
need to fish 4
Okay.
out of the 5 to qualify for it, whatever it might be.
So this could be, I'm just spitballing. You don't have to respond to any of this, but it could be a no entry fee championship. It could be an Angler of the Year title in itself. It could be a boat. I mean, there's endless opportunities here.
Yeah, it could be something that blows all that away.
Okay.
So we'll see. A lot of pieces to put the puzzle together, but the momentum's going well, and I want to just keep that steam rolling forward. So, a lot of great things happening out west. A lot of great things happening with Wombass. The jamboree seemed to be very civil this year. Again, I hadn't been to it for many years, and there's some horse trading going on. And even when I got off those weekends and said, "Hey, I'll just go back to my weekend dates," it helped some of the guys, some of the organizations. So, we're not out here trying to cut each other's throat, and
Civil, right.
yeah, and I've learned, and especially with the social media side that we've done, and I'm going to equate it to something that wasn't very comfortable for me in my life, and it was a divorce that I had gone through. And you learn through things like that saying less is more. Just being an observer, keeping your mouth shut, and proving that what you do above anything else is what matters most. Not worrying about what other people are doing, as long as you can go to bed at night and sleep with yourself, and knowing that whatever it is you're doing for the industry, the anglers, the location, vendors, is what's important, and luckily I sleep really good every night. Can't complain.
Yeah.
Sometimes too good, but as you get older, you sleep less.
Yeah.
And fish less too. I don't know. Seem to be fishing less, but I'm trying to work on that too.
That's how, man, it's been, I'm with the move to Idaho. It has just been so much work, and getting this house ready to get out of, and then getting in that house, and just so much stuff. It's I really front loaded my season to fish a lot, and then I kind of had this break, and it's I need to go fishing. I feel like I haven't picked up, I'm gonna forget how to fish this fall. But it's crazy how, I agree, as life gets kind of busy and those kinds of things, that's what makes these events so special, is you get to go to them and see all your buddies, and continue that trend.
Yeah, I mean, for me, people say I've got a great job, and I do, because I can honestly say that the friendships I've built over the last 14 years with these anglers. I just talked to Mike Folkstad yesterday, and it's he compliments me every so often. I'll get a text message, and to get messages from Mike Folkstad and guys like that say, "Hey, you're doing a hell of a good job. Keep it up," and call them my friends, and still be able to separate myself and be a tournament director at the same time. It's sometimes not easy, but it's what you have to do.
Right.
There's a line there. They're anglers and friends, and they're both. But when you're at a tournament, just like we got rid of our official practice days, whatever you do before the tournament is what you do before the tournament. Whatever you do during the tournament is straight and narrow on the line and is going to be judged the same way as it would be for anybody else.
Right. Right. Which is the right way to do it. I mean, I think that's something that you hit the nail on the head with earlier in this show, is just, if you're treating people right, and I think you said something like, if you're calling it how it is in the event, something along those lines of calling it how the best you can, how you can see things during the event, like you're doing things right. You can sleep well at night. And those are like, that's the idea, right? Of like a referee, of being in the moment. You knew to the best of your ability to make that call. You did the best that you could. And
yeah, taking all parts and factors into consideration when you make. I'll put it this way: my very first Cabo Tuna jackpot that I helped run for Western Outdoor News with Pat McDonald, who used to run the tournament for over 20 years. I was at the tournament, and I was a tournament director, but not the tournament director. And so I was in charge of a lot of things. And at that particular tournament, you had to have your boat in a specific part of the marina by 6 o'clock to have your fish weighed. And if you were late, just like for bass fishing, if you're late to your flight, you don't get to weigh that fish.
Right.
Well, that fish was worth $350,000. And they were 2 minutes late.
Oh.
And I was the guy on the dock that had to tell them, I'm sorry, you're disqualified. You can't weigh that fish. And they knew how much money was on the line. Nobody was behind me. Nobody was saying, we got your back, Bill. Don't worry about it. You're making the right call. It was a call that had to be made. And if I can make a call like that, I think anything I do in bass fishing is going to be pretty simple. You know,
right.
The rules are there. They're there for a reason. It's pretty simple. We go over all of it before the tournaments. There's no ambiguity, which you see, it's tough in all these different organizations. And, this MLF thing with catching the same fish twice type deal,
right.
You don't have that situation because that's the format you're fishing. If it's in the live well, you wouldn't be able to catch it again. And well, if you don't see it, you can catch it again. Wait a minute. You can either catch it again or you can't catch it again.
Right.
But there's ambiguity in all things, and you have to take all that into consideration. But the right call's got to be made.
Right. And it's an interesting thing to me over the history of following the sport. And gosh, the amount of rumors, just bass fishermen are the worst at all of it. But over the years of this organization caters to these guys because they're in the club, they run the sponsored boat, they do, like these have been conversations going back the last 30 years, right? More than that, probably even, but like you hear all these different things. And so that's refreshing. It's good to hear of saying, look, you're treated like anyone else. You can be my best friend when we're hanging out and that kind of a thing. But if it's the event, like I'm straight and narrow, black and white. Like,
of course, it has to be that. It has to be that way. And I was go back to the video when it was first introduced, 3 years ago at the U.S. Open at the meeting that they had, and I brought up some concerns. I was positive about it, but I just brought up some ideas and thoughts that you need to think about in order for something to work like that. And my opinion was, as soon as you form a club of any sort, the people in the club are always having fun and enjoying it, but the people outside the club despise the guys in the club because they're not in the club.
Right. They get weary of it too.
What do they
be doing?
What do they know that I don't know? They're not telling me something.
Right.
And we're all in a club. We're all bass anglers, so let's not divide us even more. I got enough stuff dividing people as it is right now. Let's be inclusive, and make a platform where anybody can do it. Anybody has the right to any information that anybody else has the right to. And let's be above board and say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say and provide a product that the customers want and that they keep coming back for, which we keep getting them come back. And obviously we're doing something right.
Right. Awesome. Well, Billy, I guess more than anything, folks, you heard it here, the release of the dates for 2024. And then for anyone who's interested, US Open, get your money in by August 15th. But just one more time for folks, how can folks follow along everything WON Bass? Where do people need to go?
We're on every platform right now. So either Facebook on our WON Bass Facebook page. We also have a WON Bass Tournament Anglers group page that you can join, which is information that's typically separate from what we put out on our regular Facebook page, more direct towards the anglers that fish our events. Sure. We've got our Instagram, we've got wonbass.com, which we're going to be upgrading that website sometime after the US Open. Lots of plans there as well. You can call us, email me, anytime. Leave a message here, 949-366-0248. My phone's always available. If you're lucky, you'll probably get my cell phone at one of the events. So a lot of people have my phone there, but any questions, any concerns, always reach out. We're available through all the different platforms. I appreciate you allowing me to come on the platform here and to talk about what we're doing and what the West is doing. And, it's summer. It's beautiful out here. We're having a good time out West, and change is always good.
Yeah.
It's always good. One way or the other, change is always good. And it helps people sharpen their pencils, make sure they're doing what they're doing right and for the right reasons. And we're doing the same. We're no different.
Yeah, totally. Totally, man. No, I love it. And I think that's a great way to wrap the show up, that change is good. And it's got to look at the positive side of things. And, everything is getting pencils are getting sharpened on everyone out West right now, because they're competing, in my opinion, for a good amount of anglers on where a guy's going to fish next year. Because guys don't stop fishing. At least
no, they don't stop fishing, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Right?
If something's working, stick with it. And if it seems interesting, stick your nose in it, but just put your toes in, figure it out, make a decision for yourself. But don't believe what Tom said about it. Make sure you go see it for yourself, experience it for yourself, then make an educated decision on where you're going to put your money, where you're going to put your time, and what expectations you have out of that journey that you're going to get into.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Awesome.
Positive vibes only. Positive vibes only.
I like it. Well, that's good to hear and refreshing. And man, this was a bunch of fun. So thanks for taking the time out. Really appreciate all of your views. Obviously, with all of your background in the West, it means a lot to hear it from yourself. And man, excited to follow on everything this fall. Another U.S. Open, 41st, I believe. It's just so cool to think through. And man, it'll be cool to see the big names there. I love seeing all the big names coming from the East to come to that event, and more.
Yeah, I had a great time at the Classic. A lot of the guys said they're coming, and some new guys. I won't pin them on the spot, but Wheeler said he might come.
Wow,
and a few other people said that they'd be there. But as far as any AAAs are watching, we have room right now.
Okay.
Get signed up, because the earlier you sign up, it's based on the date of your payment, which puts you in line to get paired into the event. Pros, you can sign up anytime you want, but get your deposits in by August 15th. So we've got a good grasp on who's going to be there. And actually, I'll let you know here now, another first. If you get your deposit in, or you've got your deposit already in by August 15th, we're going to pick 5 random pros and 5 random co-anglers. Are going to win a hoodie and a t-shirt from WON Bass for getting their deposits in early. So some WON Bass swag going out to 10 different guys that get signed up by August 15th, and lots more come down the pipeline. I thank you for having me, and I look forward to all the fun. It's a great time, and love what I do, and thanks for giving us a platform to talk about it.
Absolutely. All right, Billy, have a good one, man. Certainly appreciate you.
Cheers, bro.